Okay, I'd like to welcome everyone to the annual meeting for the Franklin County Industrial Development Agency on Wednesday, January 11th, 2023. Maria, could you do the roll call for us?
Sure. Sherry Boyer is en route. James Ellis,
Yes, here.
Stephen Erman,
Here.
Adeline Fleury. Here. Archie McKee,
Here.
Nate Manette.
Here.
We have a vacant seat currently. Also present, we have Jeremy Evans, Maria Bourgeois, Paul Ellis, and Justice Martin.
Okay. We are in need of nominations and then an election of officers. Prior to the new year, our board chair had asked Madeline to make some nominations. Madeline, are you ready to make some nominations and lead us through the nominating process?
I can make the nominations, yes.
Okay.
I don't know
And then
about the
I'll-
nominating process.
I'll take us through the process, but yes,
Okay,
great.
all
Go
right.
ahead.
Yeah, so the governance committee met on Friday and discussed nominations for the officers, and what we decided upon for nominations is the chairperson is Jim Ellis, the vice chair Sherry Bouye, secretary Madeline Fleury, assistant secretary Steve Erman, and treasurer Archie McKee. Those are the nominations that we
Great.
came up with.
Can you run
So-
through system again?
That would be Steve Erman,
And Archie treasurer?
correct?
Any assistant treasurer?
No,
Okay, so for chair, Jim Ellis, vice chair Sherry Boye, secretary Madeline Fleury, assistant secretary Steve Erman, treasurer Archie McKee. Are there any other nominations to come before the board? Hearing none, I think it would be fine for us for me to call for a motion to accept this entire slate of officers. Could I get a motion?
So moved.
Good. Okay, a second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, we have our officers duly elected.
Congratulations.
Mr. Chairman, I'll turn the meeting back over to you. Our one item for business on the annual meeting before we go into the regular meeting would be appointment of committees or discussion of committees.
Thank you, everybody, and I appreciate your willingness to trust yourself to my judgment to some degree. Basically, it's going to be our judgment because that's the way we're going to operate. As far as up till now, I've been pretty much waiting to see what was going to happen with justice, and the gods have smiled upon us, and justice is now a member of the county board. And I hope it's not like Winston Churchill said one time, I had a good friend, member of the House. He ascended into the House of Lords, has not been heard from since. So I hope that's not your case, Justice. You're welcome. You're welcome anytime you're here. And we all share in your good luck. Anything you care to say?
Oh, well, thank you, Jim. You keep raising the bar on me, so thank you for your prayers and your well wishes. So I'm glad to be here, and as some of you know, currently there's no one appointed to the place I had on the board here, but hopefully we'll have an appointment in the near future.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks. I hope you'll continue to give us someone as good as yourself to sit on this board, someone who wants to do the work. That's important. So speaking about that, we'll get into the committees, and I think I would like to postpone that until further on in the business. We have a regular meeting, and I'm not sure, would you, Maria, Jeremy, do you think our roll call is correct now, or should we do it another roll call?
I think we could adjourn the annual meeting,
Okay,
just to be on the safe side, and
So
then,
you're not doing appointment of committees in the annual meeting, you're gonna adjourn it and move into a regular?
move it into the regular agenda, Maria, so we have time for some discussion.
Okay, can we adjourn this one then?
Yep. Go ahead, motion to adjourn the annual meeting.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Madeline, second.
I'll second it.
Second, Nate. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay. Now we'll call the regular meeting, our annual or monthly meeting of the IDA together. And Maria, if you want to do the roll call.
Sherry Boye is not here, but on her way. James Ellis,
Here.
Stephen Erman,
Here.
Madeline Flurry,
Here.
Archie McKee,
Here.
Nate Manette.
Here.
We have a vacant seat. Also present, Jeremy Evans, Maria Bourgeois, Paul Ellis, and Justice Martin.
Thank you. Now, for the agenda today, the only thing that I would propose is that we take the discussion of the committee appointments into the regular agenda for this meeting. If there's no objection, we'll just add that to the agenda, if you wouldn't mind, Maria.
Sure.
Okay, public comments. Anyone? Public comment? If not, we move on to approval of the previous minutes, December 14, 2022. Copies of which we've received.
do you want to have the agenda accepted? I think we
Okay.
forgot to add that here. Is that what you?
By motion?
Yeah.
Let's backtrack for a moment. I added that item to the agenda and I really should have called for a motion to place it into the agenda.
I'll make a motion to add that item to the agenda and approve the balance of the agenda for discussion.
I'll second.
Second, Madeline. All those in favor of adding to the agenda the appointment of committees as a separate item, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Very good. We've been through the public comment period. We're now at the approval of meeting minutes for December 14, 2022.
So moved.
All received those in your email packets?
Yep.
Additions, deletions?
Somebody made who was that? That made the motion? Archie?
Yeah.
It was Archie.
Okay, Archie, thank you. All those in favor of adopting the minutes of the meeting of December 14, 2022
Second.
as they stand?
I'll second. for
Second
discussion.
by Steve Erman. Adoption of the minutes, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And one abstention, because I was not at the meeting. Okay, Maria, thank you.
Okay, so you seconded the motion, but you're abstaining.
Yeah, I seconded. I think that's.
Okay.
That's appropriate.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's appropriate. Okay, next, bills and communications.
I don't have any today.
None reported. Committee reports, let's vacate the committee reports and we will put that with the added agenda item a little later in the agenda. Treasurer's report? Paul?
You don't have anything.
Hidden.
So as far as the treasurer's report goes right now, we're in the process of year-end reconciling, getting ready for the audit, and we did have some sizable deposits in December, both in the IDA and the LDC. in regards to the investment activity, you did or should have received an investment report.
Right.
We made our first investment into the Treasury Direct. We also made 2 additional ones this week. One for 200,000 in the IDA and another one for 6,000 in the CDC. So the money's going out and being and I'm noticing the interest rates are starting to come up even a little bit more than they were last week.
My investment report that I got attached to my email is all zeros.
Just the IDA would have had,
Just the
just one of
IDA,
them had.
the LDC the IDA had money, the LDC didn't have money. And there's should have been 3 different reports. And
So
only one of them had an investment activity last week. So 2 of them would have had zeros.
Very good. Any further questions?
I just have a question on the balance sheet. One of the line items, it says under land, construction in process. What is that?
So new category added to the balance sheet in the IDA. This is after conversation with our auditing firm. Because we engaged the engineer to do a survey, an assessment of the factory, that the invoices related to that project are kind of categorized as construction in progress because it's such a sizable amount. It would be a capital expense if we move forward with this any of these elements that they've identified, and we would be able to capitalize it. Would have to become part of the fixed cost classified under improvements for the factory. In the past, it might have been categorized as an expense, but it's not an expense because it would have to be capitalized as part of the factory. So that was their recommendation, since we haven't actually did any improvements, that they classify it as construction in progress.
Thank you.
I noticed we moved, Paul, the line item 1301. It went from 148 to 0, and it transferred over, but I'm not sure why that had to be done.
I'm not sure what you're looking at, so what statement are you
We
looking
only
at?
made one copy here.
Here.
I'm looking at the balance sheet
Usually.
as of December 31, 2022.
Okay,
Sorry.
so you're talking about land. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to develop, as part of the year-end reconciliation and trying to make things easier to keep track of. When I looked at the auditor's work papers from last year, they actually had those figures available for each of those business parks. So instead of just having one lump sum for land, I thought it would be more useful to have it broken out by, well, where is this land? So now it identifies what the cost basis is for the land in each of those business parks.
Okay,
Okay.
got it. Thank you. Thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else? Questions for Treasurer's report? Any other questions? Hearing no further questions, we'll accept the motion to adopt the Treasurer's report.
Steve will move.
Steve Herman moves. Second?
I'll
Second?
second it.
Second, Madeline? Further discussion? Hearing none, we'll assume the vote's been called. All those in favor of accepting the Treasurer's report as given, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Thank you. Old and unfinished business.
I do have something I'd like to discuss from previous meetings, but I'm not sure. I imagine it probably has to go into executive session. So if you want to wait till later, we can talk about it then, but.
Okay, but the thing, Nate, that we have to remember is every time we go into an executive session, we have to have a reason. And I think based on the way we normally go in, we could cover almost anything.
Hey, Nate, why don't you do this? If you just send me a text on what it's about, and then what I can do is identify the proper purpose of an executive session that it would fall under. That way.
Okay.
If you just send me that, and then I can give it to Jim so we know what part
Cool,
of the law we're going into the session under.
cool.
We'll classify it under generic title, so it doesn't identify.
Okay, cool.
Very good. Anything further? Now we'll move on to the CEO report.
Okay, thanks, Jim. So I'm trying to think about how to make CEO report better. This is something that was recommended that we add to the agenda from the work group the board had a few months ago. So what I'm going to share today is just a couple of highlights from December and just try to keep it brief. Some of these things the board's aware of, but the first is that we did proceed with all the paperwork related to the termination of the Noble Wind project pilot agreement. That was a project that has got to the end of its 15-year pilot.
Wow.
It's kind of amazing to think that those towers have been up that long already.
Incredible.
And so there's all sorts of paperwork for terminating that. That was finished in just right over the holidays, right towards the end of the year. And there were a lot of discussions between ourselves and the company, and also the taxing jurisdictions, the school district, the town of Chateauguay in Franklin County, just to make sure the transition from a project that is under basically the tax exemptions from a pilot, and then paying pilot payments to taxation. There's a lot. I mean, it's nothing at a scale like this. It's nothing any of the jurisdictions have ever run into before. So it's just a lot of discussions about how to make it work. So there's I'll call it a soft landing for everybody. But in the end, I think we got to a good result, and that I think that's all finished now. I think there's just a couple signatures waiting. I think that's all finished. We did receive payment, and the closing occurred for the lot in the Tupper Lake Business Park that we sold to Hyde Fuel. They'll be now working to construct a propane storage facility. So it was great. I think we were happy to work with them because it moved an important use out of the junction and out to a more appropriate location. So that was in the works for a while. That finally closed. Paul referred to a sizable income that we got in December. That of course was from our fees related to the 3 solar projects, Fort Covington 1 and 2, and Burke Solar. The board approved those authorizing resolutions in December. All the closing documents have been executed, and we received payments. So thank you for approving those in December, because we're able to get it all finished prior to the end of the year. And then the last thing I'll mention is that just prior to the end of the year, Maria was able to get all of our invoices out for pilots for 2023. I think we have 5 now that we are sending out each year. And so we keep working on our system to make that more streamlined. And we send those out for January 1st, and then the payment, and it's a 30-day payment window. The only thing that Maria and I wish is that, and this isn't anyone's fault, it's just the way life is that we got updated assessment information sooner. Because we literally get it a few days before the end of the year, and then we've got to take that data and make the calculations and send out the invoices. But we've done that. We have a couple of things we've got to check with the OYA invoicing. And once we have that squared away, I will update everybody on that, but we're still looking at a couple of things. So for the IDA, that's my I'll call it the December report.
Thanks, Jeremy. Any questions for Jeremy?
I
Anyway.
have a question. You say that you closed out accounts and whatnot, but is it reflected on the balance sheet or?
What do you mean closed down accounts?
No, not
Oh,
closed down. Received payments.
The pilot, the Noble Wind, yeah. It wouldn't be reflected in any of our finances or our financial information because the payments went directly from the company to the county treasurer's office, and then the treasurer distributed the payments.
Okay.
The new.
I want
the
to,
new
wait, hang on a
pilot-
second. I want to make sure that we're talking apples and apples. Are you talking about the, our fees that we got from the 3 solar projects?
Well, I mean, that and the sale of the property and all of that.
Yeah,
Is that?
it is.
Oh,
Okay. Where-
it is there, okay.
So it would be on the income statement.
Okay, so not on this.
Right behind, it's a two-sided thing, I think.
Well, that's the balance sheet. I think you're
I don't
looking at.
think I
It would
have
be- So it would be,
I don't have it in front of me, so that's all right. I'll look it up. That's okay. I'll look it up in my phone.
but and then the pilot payments that Maria's billing out for right now is not money that belongs to us, and we just have to pay her back.
Very good. Any further questions? I think we are probably at this point, we've adopted the treasurer's report. Is there anything further that we have to do, Jeremy?
Yeah, we need to adopt resolution 2023.
Oh, I understand that.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, at this point.
No.
Before we get there.
No, the only two things business items is discussion of committees, which we could do here, or actually we could do it at EDC meeting if you want to.
Well, we can, it applies to all 3, so
Okay, so whatever
Whatever-
you want, and then it's,
I think once we discuss it here, then we can just
okay,
basically reference it when we get to the other two meetings.
okay.
Okay, here's the thing with the committees. I spent a lot of time going through this, the committee list, the functions of the committees, and what I hope we can get done with the committees. So based on that, I'm going to walk through the committees that I'm recommending to you. First of all, the Governance Committee, Chair will be Madeline Fleury. Audit and Finance, Chair will be Archie McKee. Those are 2 that have to be there based on, I think, the ABO's regulations, the authorities that control us. So those have to be, they're an how should I say it? They're a constant, they're constantly in business. There are permanent committees. Now, we get into the other committees. Spent quite a bit of time juggling around and trying to come up with ideas as to how we can sort of make the committees work with the functions that we have already decided we're going to carry out in the 2023 program discussions. So here's what I'm recommending to you. First of all, Economic Development Committee. I'm recommending Steve Ehrman as the chairman. Lots of reasons for doing that. But for the basic reason, his background for sure, and the fact that he has experience with the APA. Anytime you're dealing with everything within the blue line, you better make sure you know what the 800-pound gorilla is in the Adirondacks. It's called the Park Agency. So Steve has been very involved in that, in the APA, as you know. Here's what they'll function, and the functions of the Economic Development Committee should be. First of all, we should function on the business parks, or focus on the business parks. We still have lots for sale in each of the 3 business parks. And it would be good for us to try to get those things sold and get them on the books, get them moving. We also ask this committee to deal with infrastructure. One of the things that we seem to forget is that there is infrastructure that makes other parts of our business programs hum. Infrastructure being things like roads. Remember, Franklin County has a lot of county roads, a lot of town roads, and sometimes it's necessary for them to either be involved in or to be part of a discussion of a business that may want to come into Franklin County. This committee will also work on broadband. It's one of the things that the county board asked us to take up as part of our work with them this year. The big thing is that there's tons of broadband, fiber all through Franklin County, most of which is dark. It hasn't been lit up. And we have to be able to figure out where the holes are, people that don't have broadband. And secondly, how to get that last mile done so that businesses that want to come in here, we can pinpoint for them where they have to go and what they have to do in order to get onto the fiber. Also ask this committee to work on properties other than business parks. For example, we already have, just in Tupper Lake, we have the mortgage on the eatery, the Hub, the group, by the way, that just received a $500,000 grant
That's great.
from the EDA to be used to develop small business farms and to do value-added food production. $500,000. So we have to really be part of that discussion, and I think this is the place where it should be done, is on the Economic Development Committee. People are going to say, well, tourism used to be involved. Well, tourism is because at the time that we set up the committees to begin with, we had the tourism program as part of our charge. And since the county board in its wisdom decided that they were going to take it back, tourism now becomes an economic development tool that we may be able to use for downtown and whatever else is going to be involved. And so tourism is going to thread its way all through these committees that I'm going to mention now with economic development, and the next one, which is downtown revitalization. Downtown revitalization and entrepreneurship, key committee. And Sherry Boyer, I'd like to appoint Sherry as the chair of that committee, working with others. We haven't appointed other members.
Good.
But I think Sherry's background, her professional life is such that we can focus on filling storefronts. We have all sorts of downtown revitalization, but if you got empty storefronts, what the heck good is it? So that committee would work with our staff to begin filling out storefronts if possible with retail businesses and services, and also to work with housing. Agriculture at this point, we're not sure where we're going with agriculture in terms of how no pun intended, how do we want to beef up agriculture? Right now, Madeline is holding the seat as the chair based on what Justice may come up with in terms of either himself remaining, working with us, or as an appointment. So that would be a committee that we sort of in flux at the point that where we are right now. We don't really know what the future is going to hold for it based on what we may be able to come up with. So that's the outline of the committees, and those are all the committees that we're going to use. Now, anti-harassment, it's only on call, and that still becomes a topic, I think, for the governance committee to work with as needed. The loan committee, very important. The loan committee, in order to support all these other activities, I'd like to ask Nate if he would be chair of that committee.
Absolutely.
Sir?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so the loan committee will be Nate, and at this point, loans are one of those things you don't know what they are until you see them. So based on what we have and what we have available for membership, we'll be able to figure out, I think, a pretty good committee working relationship as needed for the loan committee. So every member of the IDA board is now a chairman of one of the committees. If there's any problem with where I've placed you, I'd like to know that, if you would, by getting to me privately between now and the February meeting, by email or by telephone, and explaining, I certainly think that this was my judgment based on what I saw as your skill sets and based on where your professional lives are. So if I don't hear from you, I'll assume you're okay with that. Also, probably I should say that I'd like to see us get something done by February 1 on the chairs. In other words, if you're okay with your chairmanships, then we have six members that have to be placed on all of these committees to fill them out. I'm not doing any more than 3 members to each committee. That's to make sure that we don't violate the open meeting law. Because if we have 4, then we have a quorum for the IDA meeting. And if we're doing just basically work and discussion in committees, I don't want to have to notice every one of those committee meetings. So I'm also working on it. It's taking me a little bit of time. I'd like to work with Jeremy on seeing how we can place our paid staff with each of these committees. I'll just take one right off the top of my head here, with Paul, for example, working with the loan committee, with Rachel, who is in community development, working with entrepreneurship and downtown revitalization.
Yeah,
And
good.
there's just a couple of examples. I'm not saying that's the way it's going to be, but that's an example that I think I'd have to have Jeremy make those appointments, because that's his purview as chief of the staff. So that's the background of why I did what I did. The committees are key. Key in the fact that we really have moved into so much more activity than all the years that I've been on this board. And I think Justice, who probably has the same years as I do, agrees with that. We have an awful lot of work that we're doing, and the committees will make it easier for us to get the job done. However, that begs a question. And the question is that it's always like trying to make sure that we can herd kitty cats to try to get a meeting together. And I think we probably may want to get to a point where we set up a committee meeting once a month on a given day, 3rd Tuesday, 2nd Thursday, whatever it's going to be, based on what the committee chairs and the committee works out as to how they want to do that. Because you got some people like Sherry's busy all the time, Nate's busy all the time in their day-to-day work. And it's very important that we don't bite into their ability to put food on the table by demanding too much from them either. So we'll have to work that out. And it's something that we can. So let me leave you at this point. I want to know if you're satisfied. If you're dissatisfied with your chairmanships, let me know between now and February 1, either by email or by telephone. And you're welcome to call me anytime you wish. I want to make that clear, that I'm not bothered. In fact, you can start calling me at 5 a.m. if you want. And if you want to drop by the house, I'll make you a cup of coffee, and we can do some homemade toast.
Do you want any comments or discussion now?
Yeah, okay.
But I look at this and I like this. And I think one of the things that we've had in the past is a little, I don't know about confusion, but not enough specificity in terms of what they think is specifically about economic development and downtown revitalization. And when I hear this, I look at economic development covering kind of the bigger countywide initiatives. You were talking about broadband, roads, could be energy things like that, plus the business parks, which are outside of the downtowns. But the real action in terms of economic development of the county and where bed tax money has been invested is in downtown, all the downtown revitalization work. And that's where really things are happening more than beyond. So I think what you defined in terms of functions for downtown revitalization, and I think it's great that if Sherry's comfortable with sharing that, I think it's a good structure. And I would frankly, for a little cross fertilization, if you could say it, I would welcome Sherry also being on economic development. So we have, within those committees, we have a sense of what's big and what's happening in the downtowns themselves. And I think that crossover could be helpful. So.
Thank you, Steve.
I don't know if that's what you may be thinking, Sherry, in terms of, where you want to put your time, but you'd be welcome.
Sounds good. Makes sense.
Anyone else? Any other comments before we move on? So again, you have an assignment. If you're not happy with the chairmanship of the particular committee that I've named, please let me know between now and 1 February.
Good.
Okay. Let's move on now to adoption of resolution 2023-01. This is basic housekeeping for us. It's the listing of all the resolutions of the policies that we have in place. And I think, Maria, there's been no changes in the policies. Has there been from last year? Okay. So the first thing is that we have to have a mission statement, which you can find in your packet. If you're okay with that, then we can move on to the disposition of the property policy. And if you're satisfied with that, we can move on to procurement. Are any of the members having any problems with any of those three required policies? Okay, if not, then we need a motion to adopt resolution 2023-01 for the adoption of required policies. Have a motion, please.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Sherry. Second?
Second, Archie,
Second, Archie.
yes.
Any further discussion? If not, we'll assume the question's been moved, and I'll ask Maria to go ahead and do the roll call vote.
Okay, for 2023-01, adoption of required policies, Sherry Boye,
Yes.
James Ellis,
Yes,
Stephen Herman,
Excuse me. Yes.
Madeline Flurry,
Yes.
Archie McKee,
Yes,
Nate Max.
Yes.
Okay, duly adopted.
thank you. Are there any other public comments?
I have just one comment on those policies, not that I disagree with them, but can we put on them the last time that they were revised, so that way when we see them, we know when the revision date was on them, so we know whether they were revised or not?
Very
Is
good.
that
Is that
possible?
something we can find in our historical records, Maria?
Yeah, but I think it's a good idea to list at the end of the policy, just a line of every time. I think that's the easiest
Oh,
way.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's-
'cause you can look at it,
Yeah.
so, okay, now they're not making any changes to it,
Yeah,
otherwise it's tedious.
Yeah. Very good. Thank you. Can I have a motion to adjourn the regular meeting of the IDA?
Nate wanted a executive session, just.
I spoke
maybe
to
it's
Jeremy.
LDC
He said they're
related.
gonna
Yeah.
take care of it.
Okay,
So that's,
Thank you.
let's see,
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Yeah. motion to adjourn the regular meeting of the IDA for this month.
No second,
Second? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Hi.
aye.
We stand adjourned until February 8th, 2023. We get back to us, please, if you got any problems with the chairmanships, but not